Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are watching this. You might be watching this 2 years in the future, 3 years in the future, if this video stays on YouTube for that long. Who knows? But today we are going to be talking about basically what I would do if I was to start all over again. Lose all this muscle, go back to this fresh, young child. As you see on the right hand side, that's me as a 10-year-old in Egypt, putting on my wrestling pants. But yeah, I played a lot of football, so that's why I've got some definition in my legs. I was always a muscular kid, sporty kid, but obviously nothing like I am today. Damn, I wish I was that cute still. But basically, I'm going to be giving beginner advice for training, nutrition, and lifestyle. And learning from the many mistakes that I've made in my life, in my training experience, in the fitness world. If I can help just one person not make those same mistakes, or at least tweak them and make them work better for them, fantastic. Firstly though, it's the start of a new year as and when this video comes out. If you do not yet have a plan together, if you have not yet made a start on your 2026 version of yourself, if you are stuck and you just don't know where to go, and you are a man, 28 to 40 years old, you're single, and you're feeling pretty down on life, you're feeling pretty shit, here we go again, another year, another piece of shit. I've got the thing just for you. The best thing is that it's free. The second best thing is that it's only 5 days. My 5-day Project U 2026 challenge. All you have to do is head to the link in the comment section I'll put in here. If you follow me on Instagram, the link is also in the bio there. Have a look at the information, have a look at what the challenge entails. Hit that apply button if you want to be a part of that. I will say spots are filling up fast, and I'm only doing a limited amount of people. I cannot give away too much for free. So if you're quick on the ball and you want help getting your 2026 up and running and having a plan to see you throughout the year, then hit apply. But let's get back to what we're going to talk about today and what I would do if I went all the way back to the beginning. And it doesn't want to do. There we go. So the contents. This is me, maybe in my mid-20s, early 20s, in my mum's bathroom. You're basically going to see a progression of progress pictures, or pictures of me and my body. Now, I've been someone, and you'll actually come to this in the video itself, but I was never someone who would take pictures of myself. I never really tracked progress at the start, and that's a big thing that I would do differently now, and I'll explain. So you're going to see a big jump from when I was 10 to now mid-20s is when I actually started taking pictures and whatnot. However, I started training when I was 16, so I missed a big chunk of that, and I really do regret. Other than from what I see of pictures with friends, but I've got t-shirt on, clothes on, you can't really tell. Oh well, it is what it is. I can't turn back time yet. So the contents, how I'd start with training first and foremost, then how I'd start with nutrition. So those two are quite, in conjunction with each other. What lifestyle factors would I focus on most? Because quite frankly, I didn't think about anything lifestyle-wise, and I'm sure a lot of 16, 17, 18-year-olds wouldn't. Now, this isn't just for the young generation. You might be 30, you might be 40, you might be 50, just starting on your fitness journey. This is all relevant information. How should I monitor progress from the start? Really important thing, and like I said, something I didn't do at all. What help should I get, or what help can I seek? What should my supplement stack look like? I know you're all dying to know how many steroids I took, how much protein I had, how many boxes of BCAAs I had in my kitchen. I will reveal all when we get to it. And then, of course, the takeaway points that you can use for the rest of your, at least the first 1 to 2 years of your training journey. Let's go! Damn. Right, okay. So how I would start with training. Now, just to give you some insight, my training journey started with my friend who was really into bodybuilding. He was basically my mentor, even though he wasn't completely knowledgeable. He had a lot more knowledge than me. And as a 16-year-old, I was quite lazy when it came to education. Naturally, I was always clever. So, when it came to my GCSEs, I didn't really study that hard. but I got really good results. I got found out when I got a bit older because you can't do that. But I had the same mentality when it came to training. I just took the nearest piece of information. Did it sound about right? Did it get me results? Tick, tick, and I continued with that. So what I would do instead now, because I was playing football at a decent level at that time, I still had dreams of becoming a footballer, and I didn't really balance the two very well. I got very much hooked on the gym, getting bigger, getting stronger, getting feedback from the other sex. Of course, that's why we start. And the reason I started, or the main motivation I started, it makes everyone laugh because I wasn't the fat kid. I wasn't trying to get stronger for my sport. I wasn't inspired by pumping iron. I was inspired, Jai, by Jersey Shore. Jersey Shore, Ronnie, Mike, and Paulie D, GTL, Gym Tan Laundry. That was my inspiration. But hey, it fucking stuck. 15 years later, I'm still training and I'm still watching Jersey Shore. I joke. I wish it was still going. Great show. But what I would do if I was to reverse that all the way back to the start, I'd ease into it. I would ease into it. Find the most convenient way of training. So that might just be starting with your dad's dumbbells at home or your set of dumbbells at home. It might just be starting at the local leisure centre, getting to grips with machines, exercises, free weights. It might just be the fact that you've got a gym within walking distance or within a commutable distance that you're going to be consistent with. That's the most important thing for anyone starting out anything, is if you can be consistent with it. So then, of course, that leads to the fact that you're going to have access. Is it open at the hours that you need it to be open at? Because if it's not, then what's the point? And enjoyment is crucial. So by this, enjoyment, if you're not someone who likes to go to the gym and lift weights, that's fine. You don't have to do that to get in shape. There is multiple ways of training. You can do group exercise classes, CrossFit, Olympic lifting. Yes, okay, it's not going to be the same as bodybuilding in terms of the physical aesthetic results you get, but it's still going to get you fit, healthy, strong, and in shape. All right, and that's the most important thing. That leads me on to my next point. There's more than one way. You don't just have to go and lift weights. And that's something I really, really regret. I think if I found something like CrossFit at the time I really got into weights, or maybe even after about 2 years I got into the weights, I would have absolutely loved it. And who knows where it might have took me, because, 2 years into my CrossFit journey, I feel I'm a pretty good level. But if you added 10 years onto that, where could I be? Not saying I would be professional by any means, but in terms of my own development, my own sort of love for the sport, but your own skill level, I could be on completely different levels. I would be on completely different levels to where I am now. And that brings me on to the next point. See, I like to link the dots. Can you not see? We jump from one to the other. It's not random. I am feeling very much in the flow today. But think about your future. And what I mean by this is, what do you actually want to achieve with your training? Is it to get as big as damn possible? Because I'll admit, that is at first what I wanted to do. I wanted to see how big I could get. Not necessarily to step on stage. It was more, a personal challenge. And the constant feedback, the fact that I was known as the muscular guy, the guy that was taking steroids in school, and I'll get to that. The guy that would always be known as the fit guy. That's what I loved about it. But I didn't think too deeply about, actually, I love sport. I love competing. And I don't think I'm ever going to step up on stage, although I did. That, at that time, it wasn't a thought. So maybe I should have considered, actually, I want to compete in something. And I know this style of training isn't going to get me there. So that's what I would suggest to you. Find a training partner / a group of buddies. Now, I have never enjoyed training more than when I have a group of friends or a selection of training buddies that I can pick from. When I started out, 16 to 18, no, even through university, I always had a training partner. Not necessarily went to the gym all the time with someone, but a lot of the time I did. And it was enjoyable, not only because there's someone there that you can chat with, converse with, work out with, spot whatever you want to do, but it's almost that extra layer of accountability. And it helps, especially at the start, for you to ingrain that routine and habit with someone else, because once it's been ingrained and once you've got that routine, you'll find that you'll start doing things on your own. But the fact you've got someone there or a group of friends there, or even your peers that you go and do the group training session, the CrossFit, the Hyrox with, it's going to help you be more consistent and implement that into your sort of daily life. So that's what I would suggest. And finally, nothing gets anyone more excited for something than buying the clothes, the gear, the things to wear and use for that specific thing. So what I would suggest, because I didn't really do this, I didn't invest in any sort of lifting gear other than clothes for maybe 4 or 5 years. And I regret doing that as well, because yes, it made me progress, but I couldn't wait to use it. I couldn't wait to go to the gym and test it out. And this is the same, I feel, when I've started CrossFit. I fucking hate skipping. I hate double unders. When I get a new rope, I want to go and do double unders. You know, it's such a weird paradox, but it almost is just like, I've invested in that money now, so let's go and put it to use. So that would be my start. And of course, within that category, new gear, would come some of the supplements, which I'm going to discuss. Again, you don't want them to go to waste. So that's my sort of 2 pence on training just to start out. Let's get on to the diet side of things though, and how does that look and how did it look? So now we're looking at around, I think, 26 years old at this stage. You can see I'm a little bit bulky there, maybe not as lean as that first picture, but definitely putting on size and trying to grow a mustache by the look of it. And, you know, even at 31, that's not going to happen. And when it does, I look like a Spanish pedophile, so I'm not going to do that either. So this is from my personal experience. Remember, you know, I'm coming from a place of, I played sport as a kid. I've always been lean. I've always been in shape. All right. So I wouldn't say this applies to someone trying to lose body fat. So if that is you, this isn't the video to follow. Disclaimer. However, I was lean. So you need to fucking eat. Eat. Eat more than you think. All right. I did it the way where, luckily, I was still at home. Mum was cooking mostly good teas for me. So I could, you know, literally just use that as the methodology. Eat more. However, I will put the disclaimer here. It's eat more of the good stuff. Eat more lean protein. Eat more vegetables. Eat more good sources of carbohydrates. Eat more whole foods. And the way I would do this now, if I went back to that 16-year-old self, I'd work out actually what I need for my macros, and I'd play the game. I'd test it out for a couple of weeks. Am I gaining weight? Am I losing weight? Am I staying the same? And then I'd adjust from there. And that's where learning how to track and educating yourself would come into play. Luckily, because of my brain, I'm like Rain Man. I really think I'm like autistic in some way, but I love numbers. I love to work with maths and those sort of equations and blah, 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 blah. That's what I really get engaged with. So when it came to counting macros, counting calories, it's almost like I had a photographic memory of there's X amount of calories in this amount of rice. There's X amount of protein in this amount of chicken. Yes, okay, I couldn't tell you the specifics and I couldn't go through every list of ingredients, but the important foods that were in my diet, I learned pretty damn quickly. And that helps me to not really have to track, not really have to weigh things out, you know, because I wasn't being super specific with my goals, but it massively, massively helps, particularly if you're someone that likes to go out and eat. Then you can look at a pizza, you can look at a plate of pasta, you can look at some steak and potatoes and go, do the maths, boom, I'm roughly at around that. Great. And you'll be so much more, it might sound restrictive, but you'll be so much more, or have so much more freedom with your food because you're not having to rely on the absolute specifics. You can estimate accurately. And if you want to add, you know, compromise for eating out, you can add 20% on top of what you've worked out. That's what I like to do, and it creates a nice buffer. So I was quite good at doing this. Whole foods, meat, fish, vegetables. As I said, my mum was, she's still here. Thank fuck. Don't know where I'd be if she wasn't. She's a fantastic cook. And, you know, even though I was a fussy eater up until maybe the age of 15, 16, when I started training, I had, you know, this food pretty much on tap. Wasn't tracking, didn't know how much protein I was having, didn't know how many carbs I was having. All I knew, I was having enough, I was growing. That was good enough for me. Now, I would have done this from the start if I were to go back, because I didn't really do it until I basically went to university. Luckily, and I have to put this disclaimer here, I am already predisposed genetically to build muscle. That is my body type. I'm only 5'8". I've always been in sport. You know, as you can see from my fucking wrestler photo here, you know, that's 10 years old. I've got some muscle. So I could get away with maybe just eating more and gaining muscle. However, that wouldn't have worked for a lot of people. And learning how to cook would give you the freedom and the control over your own meals. Now, that I'm not saying that would have been everything or every meal that you have to make, you know, from scratch. Of course not. But again, learning how to cook not only helps you, you know, have the freedom to have what you want, but I'm huge on psychology. I'm huge on mindset. It helps you develop a healthier relationship with food, understand food more, what goes into the food that you eat. And once you start learning how to cook, for me, it was almost like starting how to train, starting, you know, learning how to do CrossFit, learning how to do anything. It became exciting. I love to experiment. I love to, you know, devour or enjoy the fruits of my labor, literally. All right. Sometimes it didn't work out. Sometimes it worked fantastically. And now I'm able to, you know, at the ripe old age of 30, 31, you could stick me on a, you know, a desert island somewhere and I would find a way to keep myself full, you know, whether that be eating, you know, cooking and eating bugs, ants, fish. I reckon I could do it. But yeah, obviously I wasn't doing that. I was just learning how to cook. And that would be a big, big thing to suggest for you. Find convenience in the meals that you're making. You know, don't try and be Gordon Ramsay. Jesus Christ, don't have like 20 ingredients on the bench. Keep things simple. Try and create meals from one foundational recipe. I remember my mum showed me how to make a bolognese. Straight away, that opened the door to bolognese. It opened the door to chili, burritos, tacos, you know, pizza, lots of different things because the cooking principle was pretty much the same. All right. But this is one thing I do really, really regret, and this has haunted me up until probably my late 20s, and still from time to time does. Allow yourself some flexibility. Don't miss out on socials. Don't say no just because they're going out for a pizza. You don't have to have the fucking pizza. Now, I did this, and I'm going to get a little bit deeper and a little bit more honest now. I did this quite a lot, particularly through my early 20s. I became too obsessed. I think COVID was the real low point for me when I became too obsessed with nutrition, with how I looked. And it caused me to not only miss out on big social occasions, and that became more frequent. I lost friends. I lost some of my best friends. Like, I know they probably wouldn't say it, and they probably, you know, they might say it, but they probably wouldn't have said it at the time, or they didn't say it at the time. But I know I was a bit flaky when it came to social occasions, particularly when it evolved around food. And that's because of my anxieties. I didn't want to go away because I didn't want to risk not being able to train for a few days. And over time, I would have got sick with myself. I would have stopped asking myself to do these things. And, you know, that's kind of what happened. So big, 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 not regret of mine because I don't like regretting things, but, you know, a big lesson learned that I have to do better with the people I love, the people I cherish. And you guys know who you are in terms of my friends from school, college, and, you know, my early 20s. I love you to bits. I'll always cherish our friendship. I know it was probably, you know, mostly part of me to taint it in that way. Hopefully one day we can rekindle that, but I salute you. Right, moving on before I start crying like I was earlier today because the wind got me. Look at this handsome chap. And the guy on the right's all right, but yeah, this was called, what was he called now? I want to say he was called, was it Theo? Don't know, making it up. Theodore sounds cool, so I'm going to call him Theodore. But this is only 1.5 years ago in Thailand, of course. And as you can see, I'm pretty lean in this photo. Now, that's because I just didn't eat a lot whilst I was there. It's hard to eat. My appetite goes down in the heat and I'm moving a lot more. So, lifestyle factors, though, I should focus on. Okay, so sleep. Fucking hell. Sleep was something I did not care about. I don't know how I grew muscle because I literally would stay up as long as I could and then I'd get up as soon as my eyes open. I would not give myself enough time to sleep. I would go to sleep with the TV on. I'd be on my phone. I'd pretty much do everything to sabotage my own sleep. Fuck knows how I got around that. It's not something I would suggest. I think just because of the, you know, my young elasticity self, I was able to cope with it. But nowadays, I don't think it would be the same. So sleep is super, super important. Make sure you're getting at least 6 hours good quality. Aim for 8 though. Aim for 8 hours of good quality sleep. And that means lights out, eyes shut, boom. Avoid smoking. Big one. Avoid smoking. Now, I'm actually going to put a bit of a caveat here. Yeah, fuck it. I'm going to talk about it. Bit of a caveat here. And a bit of a, honesty session. I've smoked cannabis since I was on and off, since I was probably about 16, maybe even 15. Definitely more regularly as I've got older, but not so much like, I'm not stoned now, don't get me wrong. It'll be more like a joint in the evening after I've finished everything. Now, I actually believe for me, that's helped me sleep better. It's helped me recover better. When I've actually had it before the gym, it's helped me, my mind and muscle connection be better. Now, I wouldn't recommend this to anyone because, one, it's not proven, and two, there are obviously negative health effects of this. The reason I'm telling you this is because I'm talking about smoking pure cigarettes and frequently. So I'm not the fun police. I know what it's like to be young. I know what it's like when you are out and one of your friends has some cigarettes, wants to go outside, boom, let's go for a cigarette. That's fine. If you keep it minimal, it's not going to have any adverse effects. But I also see friends that have gone down the route of smoking quite constantly, and it's not good. It just isn't good. So avoid smoking. Again, I was a partier. Fuck knows how I gained muscle in university. I was out a minimum 4 nights a week. I drank like a fucking Viking. Yes, I still thought about the calories I was drinking. I was stuck to, you're going to probably puke at this. Just the thought of it makes me feel wheezy. Vodka, cordial, and water. It just tasted like fucking cordial, didn't it? With a little bit of a kick. So I was getting my hydration from the water. The calories were super low, but I was necking, close to a bottle of vodka every time I went out, which is not good. So moderate alcohol. If I would go back, I would change my approach to my training around that time and definitely reduce the amount of alcohol. Damn. It did get me a lot of ladies, though, I will say. I say a lot, but gave me the confidence to speak to a lot of ladies, at least. Value socials and downtime. Again, huge. Switch off from fitness for once in a while. Like, it's not the be-all and end-all. Neat steps and daily movement. Luckily, I've just been naturally an active person. Probably the undiagnosed ADHD within me. I can't sit still for more than half an hour. I love to be out doing things, playing football, hiking. This is around training, by the way. Doing other physical activities, trying new sports. Like, that's just me. That's just my lifestyle. So if this isn't you and it doesn't come naturally, start small and just think about increasing your steps. And you don't even have to think about going on a dedicated walk. You could just think about adding little habits into your routine, like when you're brushing your teeth, move around the house, go up and down the stairs once or twice. Get involved in the chores in your house a little bit more. Look at the chores that you do as a way to do a little bit of movement, a little bit of cardio. I fucking hate making my bed, right? Hate it. It's one of my worst chores that I have to do because it's always in the evening. You're always tired at that point. It's never fully dry. Or is that just me? But what I've started to do now is I do it after I've had my tea, my dinner, my evening meal. I'll go upstairs, put the bedding on. It's a way to move for 10, 15 minutes. Yes, it takes me that long to put my bedding on, but it's a way to move for 15, 20 minutes, helps my digestion, and then I'm ready for my afters in maybe like another 15 minutes. But little things like that can help a long way. You accumulate daily movement, especially when it comes to fat loss. Fantastic. Helps with posture, helps us with general bodily functioning, fitness, the lot. And I mentioned it before, don't become obsessed. Don't become obsessed. Have something else that you can channel your stress, your energy, your productivity into. And this is something, again, going back to my own experience, I wish I had at the time. I wish I put maybe more energy into, business ideas at that time. I had business ideas and I did put a bit of energy into it, but it would always get overtaken by the fitness side. Put more energy into my friends, into my family. Put more energy into a sport that's separate from the, a sport that's separate from fitness. That's what I would have done. Right, moving on. Got to say goodbye to Theo. Hopefully I see him again in the near future. Boom. Okay, so this is actually from the summer of 2024. I went on holiday to Porto with my brother, and this is just a bathroom shot. Great lighting, by the way. Hey, I was around 75 kilos, 75, maybe 74 kilos at this time. So, how should I have monitored my progress? As I mentioned at the start, regular progress pictures. Why? Because you actually see the physical changes. Are you actually changing? Because if you're not, then you're not doing something right. If you are, great. It gives you that confirmation that what you're doing is right. It's motivational. Boom. Carry on. Track your gym progress. And what I mean by this is the weights you lift, the reps that you do, how strong you're getting. Track them either in an old school notepad or on an app. Now, obviously, as a coach, I do this for all of my clients now, but I never practiced what I preached until recently, really. And it's hard to say. I don't know how I, mentally, again, because of numbers, I was able to remember things. I was definitely able to remember PBs and stuff, but I definitely didn't track, and I definitely wish I did to see that strength progress over the years. Competition. So again, are you going to go and compete in a bodybuilding show, a strength competition, a CrossFit, a High Rocks, whatever it is? That is almost like the curtain call to see how much hard work you've put in and what the results are of that hard work. It is literal feedback from how you perform on the day, So competition's great. It's not only that, but it gives you an extra layer of focus, something to work towards. And again, like I say, a visual or physical comparison to your peers. On that note, God, I didn't even look at the page. Visual feedback from peers and coach. If you're working with a coach, obviously they're going to be able to tell you whether you're changing or not. But also from your training partners, from your family, from your girlfriend, from your boyfriend, from whoever, they're going to be able to give you, they're going to be giving you feedback nonetheless, I'm sure. But you can also ask for it. You can also do these side-by-side pictures. Can you see that I've changed much in the last 3 months, the last 6 months, etc.? Measurements, so arm circumference, leg circumference, waist, neck, chest, all these, again, I didn't do, so I can't tell you where my starting point was, but these are a great way to check if you are gaining weight and gaining size in the right places as well. And also, this is something I probably did mentally, and I think this is what really did help me stick to my training, but it's, understanding the changes and the effect it was having on my energy and my daily emotions and feeling. And I would compare that to the days where, for whatever reason, I couldn't get to the gym, particularly in my early days. It was like I'd lost, an arm. It was almost like I didn't have something to channel that, young testosterone-fueled energy into. And when I went to the gym, how I felt after, actually, this brings me back to a really, really sort of funny, not story, but let's say a series of stories or just a bit of an insight into my university life. So, of course, first year university, everyone knows it counts for fuck all. And we go out all the time. And where we stayed, there was a proper pure meathead bodybuilding gym. So cool. The guys that owned it were like 6'2", absolutely huge. The guys that train there, most of them, other than, there were a few students like myself there, but other guys like proper, they would have been pro bodybuilders. If not, they were the size of a pro bodybuilder. Great environment to train, rust on the weights, blah, 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 blah. We'd go in there and they'd be blasting out tunes. Of course, they were blasting out tunes. This was in the middle of Liverpool. So as you can imagine, they're very much into their sort of dance, techno, house music, blah, blah, blah. And we'd be rough as fuck sometimes. Like we'd barely, be able to sort of make it to the gym. Sometimes we put it off for so long because I was an early gym goer. I like to get up and go, but sometimes we put it off so long we didn't get there till like 5, 6 p.m. And all it took was a few sets, a bit of a pump, and for one of the group of friends to turn around and say, didn't even have to say anything, just look at each other and go, out tonight. And we'd go from staying in, never drinking again, to let's fucking go, baby. But that's just an example of how going to the gym with friends, loud music, lifting weights, how it can change your mood like that. So cool. Maybe not the right environment for a lot of you listening to this. I'm not saying that you should go to the gym and go out and get wasted every night. I'm just saying the endorphins that it did erect were, phenomenal and still are. What help would I get? Now, this is huge for me because when I started, the only help I was really getting was from my friend, my mentor, I would say. But going back now, I would change this. I'd turn this upside down on its head. So I would get a PT for my first whole year, an in-person PT, to show me form, to show me technique, purely for that reason. So I knew I was competent in the gym and with lifts, and I would pick their brains. I'd probably go with them twice a week and just nail the free weight movements, understand reps, understand tempo and all that jazz. After that, for me personally, I don't think they were a thing back then, but an online coach would have been more preferable for me. So I could train when I want, but I would have the programming, the structure, the accountability, and the motivation, the encouragement as well, to basically help me progress. And I would probably have kept an online coach for maybe periodically, but for a lot of time going back. All right. Then, as I found my sport and, had a focus on what I wanted to achieve, I would hire a specific coach for that sport. Now, this is something I have done in my later years. I hired a bodybuilding coach, my good friend Reese. Reese Aberley, shout out here. For my bodybuilding show. Learned a lot off him regarding the sort of manipulation of your macros and how it affects the look of the body. And CrossFit, I've got my coach, Mark Parkinson, going to give you a shout out as well at CFUF, has been predominantly my CrossFit coach. But I have also picked up some good tips and strategies from other coaches at CrossFit gyms, around the world, mainly in Asia where I've traveled, which has been great as well. So that would be my suggestion. Whatever you're doing, you're a newbie. And even if you know a little bit, pretend you're a newbie. Be a sponge, soak up that knowledge and get some help. Of course, peers with more experience. If you go to the gym, I promise that you're literally in a world or a real life encyclopedia. The old guy who looks like he's in shape and, he's probably an absolute wealth of knowledge. The bodybuilder, the super lean ripped guy, they all have their own experiences. They all have their own understanding and, shall we say, direction in fitness. But you can learn a hell of a lot of these people. And contrary to popular belief, these guys are probably the most helping and caring and supportive individuals you will meet. Because they were once you, remember? They were once a newbie starting out, didn't have a fucking clue. Go and ask for help. It's something, again, I wish I did. And as men, we don't ask for help. Do it. And finally, more self-research and self-learning in the early years. Again, like I told you, I was lazy. I just took the nearest piece of information that came to me. Luckily, my friend, who I say was my mentor at the time, was very much into this. And I've not spoken to him for a while, but he was always a self-learning individual. So I would sort of secondhand get information from him, and it worked. So why do anything myself, hey? Right, the interesting one. I know you all want to know what steroids I've took in the past, and the big answer is absolutely zilch, naff, nada. Never took a steroid in my life. Never even held a steroid. I think I've only been in the presence of steroids in terms of knowledgeably once. Yeah, I've never been a believer in supplements altogether because, again, luckily, I was someone who was brought up on a good whole food, healthy diet. Genetically, I'm predisposed to being fit and athletic. It helps. It really, really does help. However, what I would suggest for starting out, protein to help hit your protein levels. It's much harder than you think to hit your protein levels consistently, particularly if you are a man above 5'10" and let's say over 160 pounds, you're going to need at least 160 grams of protein. I say at least, but ideally you're going to need 160 grams of protein or more to build relatively big muscle. And that's hard to get, particularly if you're busy. So protein, whey protein is a game changer. Creatine, just as much. It's the cheapest thing on the market, but it's going to help with your strength, your energy, and general health as well, physical and mental. Pre-workout, for those days where you're feeling a bit groggy, coffee's not going to quite do it, you need that little boost. Trust me, it's not so effective in terms of the muscle that you gain, but it can massively increase your performance. It can massively increase your enjoyment. So for me, that has enough value in enabling you to stay consistent and get good workouts in. And then finally, electrolytes, something I didn't really think about or know about until my later years, particularly as I got back into the sporting world. But electrolytes, again, great for energy, and more prolonged energy than, let's say, caffeine or a pre-workout. And also, really, really important, if you are someone who eats a predominantly whole food based diet and you're not adding much salt to your meals, electrolytes can help bring up that sodium level, which, if of course, it's an essential nutrient, so it's important to get that salt in the body. General health supplements, so something this is one of my New Year's resolutions, is to take more of these, particularly fish oils, because as I've got stronger, my joints need to, basically catch up and be the same. And then if you're not someone who gets a lot of sunlight, daily multivitamins or vitamin D tablets, the best thing to do is get some blood work from a doctor, particularly if you're a little bit older, 30 or above. Get your blood work done, see what you may be deficient in, and then go from there. Don't just guess. Don't just guess, because that's like sticking your finger and guessing how fast the wind is. It's not going to be accurate. You're probably going to be taking the wrong supplement. But like I say, a whole food based high protein diet should tick 80 to 90% of the boxes that you need. So I've kept you for a while, and this is probably I wouldn't say my proudest moment, particularly because this isn't my sport. Proud because it shit scared me. Proud because obviously the shape that I got in and have got in over the years, it isn't just the fact that I was in this shape on the day. Like, this is years and years and years of hard work. But this is the pinnacle, let's say, of muscle building, and I know that's what you're here for. So I just wanted to, again, probably shared loads and loads of these. If you've not seen me before, if you've not seen any of my videos, this was a bodybuilding show from October 2025, so not long ago. And it was good. I enjoyed the experience. I think I will do it again. Didn't quite win. Came second in my class, and that's just down to the fact I didn't practice my posing enough. I was a little bit wooden, a little bit stiff, wasn't showing off my shape as much. And I think I could get leaner. I think I could put more effort into the diet. I was a little bit loose with that, particularly towards the end. So, takeaway points. Learn from mine, your role models and your peers' mistakes, but also your own mistakes as well. You're going to make mistakes. It's a fucking trial and error. It's 20, 30, 40 years of trial and error, trust me. Give yourself the best chance by getting professional help at the start. You wouldn't try and fix an engine fault in your car. Why try and build your dream body when you don't know what the fuck nutrition's all about, what the fuck training's all about, and blah, blah, blah. Start today, no matter how old you are. If you're 16, 17, 30, 60, start today, because it's only going to get harder. Your body's going to start to break down if you're on the older side. If you're younger, you get more responsibility, you get less time. You might be heading in a direction where you're putting weight on and becoming unhealthier. So each day you don't make a change, it gets harder. Start today. Try different sports, different training options until you find one that you love. Until you find that one that you're like, I can't wait to go there. I can't wait to see, Joe tonight and train, blah, 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 blah. And you'll also have those sports that you try that you almost don't want to, you don't want to do. I used to do boxing for 6 months. And as much as I enjoyed it whilst I was there, the thought of going, I was like, I can't be arsed tonight. Don't want to do this tonight. Blah, blah, blah. They just told me it wasn't for me. I'm not someone who likes to get hit in the face. I'll admit it. Not by choice anyway. So I'll save that for when it's needed. CrossFit, however, was the thing that got that fire back in me. I can't wait to go tonight. Can't wait to do handstand push-ups. Can't wait to try and learn bar muscle-ups. I can't wait to whip my ass with the double unders 100 times tonight. That's sarcasm, because it fucking hurts for anyone that does. But you get my drift. Don't dismiss it after trying it once or twice either. Give it a chance. Give it at least 3 sessions and then move on to the next one if that's what you're going to do. Don't compare yourself to others. As I've said multiple times in this video, I am genetically gifted in the sense of muscle building, athleticism. I was brought up on a good diet. I had a lot of things going for me. You can't compare yourself to me or any other person because they don't have the same as you in terms of their environment, in terms of their genetics, in terms of their build up, their starting point, their end point. Like, we're all different. So it's you against you, and that's all that matters. Until you go to a competition, it's you against you. And it's never too late. Like I say, 16 or 40, if you start today with intention, purpose, and drive, you can succeed and achieve a lot. And on that note, if that is you and you want to start today, but you're not quite sure how, I mentioned it before, but I'm running a Project 2026 U free 5-day challenge for any man 28 to 40 years old who wants to make 2026 the year that they make progress in the gym, that they find purpose again, they build confidence, they find a woman if they haven't already got one. It's a big, big year. Let's fucking make it your year. And if you want to get involved in that free 5-day challenge, all you have to do is hit the link in the comment section on this YouTube video, or head over to my Instagram page, hit the link in my bio, and then you can apply through the page on there. You can't miss it. There's about 20 different buttons saying apply now. Peace out.